Now, I brought something along that matches my shirt because we're going to hear from somebody who's going to make you look at things differently. She's outstanding. She's from England, and I'm excited to hear her. Yetunde Hofmann is going to change the way you look at things because she's going to be talking about all of you is welcome. Yetunde, it's all you.
Thank you so much, Steve. Gosh, I'm so excited to be here, my very first Kindfest, and I sincerely hope it won't be my last. And what I want to talk to you about today is basically how when you take a good care of yourself, when all of you is allowed to be present, then you've got more space to be kind, not just to others, but also to yourself. And I hope that by the end of our short time together, that you're inspired to apply a little bit more self-care. Because when you bring all of you to the world, then it's amazing you've got space to allow yourself to be kind. And at the root of kindness is to allow yourself to be loving. Because when you're loving, you can be even more kind. Firstly, I want to share with you how a small act of kindness had one of the biggest impacts in my life. And it might be a small act to some, but actually it was a big one, a massive one to me. So a few years ago, once upon a time, I traveled to Ethiopia, to Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, and I traveled with friends. And all the way, we were all in high-powered jobs. We were, doing really well. The group of us, we traveled. We bickered all the way. We complained about the plane food. We went from London Heathrow via Nairobi in Kenya. We had to stay over. We were like, why do we need to stay over? And we just complained. And then, of course, we talked about our bosses. Guys, we talk about bosses. We talked about our bosses, how selfish they were, how we knew better than them, and we just went on. And when a group of friends get together and we just bicker, the energy was great. And then, of course, as people do, when we got to Addis Ababa, we wanted, where's the taxi? Where's the taxi? We finally got one, got to our hotel, and started to travel out. And then I met a woman, or we met a woman called Sinkanese. I will never forget her name until the day I die. And because as part of our travel, what we wanted to do was experience different aspects of what life was like in Addis Ababa. And therefore, we were introduced to Sinkanese, who lived in a shack, a tiny little shack, 100 meters from the country's local rubbish dump, from Addis Ababa's local rubbish dump. That shack had a running gutter through it, and right through the middle. The stench was putrid, horrible. But nevertheless, Sinkanese was excited to have us. She was dressed up in her most best outfits. She took us to her shack. She lived there with her 4 children, a single mother. Her bed was against the back. In front of her was a table with all her beautiful possessions. To the side was a side bench where the 3 of us sat. And on that bed, she slept with all her children. And then, to show her generosity, she brewed us fresh coffee. She made us wonderful popcorn. She regaled us with stories as to the reason why she was so happy where she lived. Meanwhile, we were trying not to breathe in as she told us the story. And she was so proud that she lived only 100 meters from the city's rubbish dump, because it meant that very early in the morning, she could get to the rubbish dump, go through all the rubbish to rummage for food that had been thrown away, that she could cook for her children. It meant that she could also rummage for utensils that she could pick up and go to the market and sell so she could buy food for her children. Do you see where I'm going with this story? Do you know what? She was also interested in us, not because of what we did. She wanted to know about me, where I came from, what my interests were, what I wanted to learn about her way of life, what I would do with that learning. She was so full of smiles. She introduced us to her children. When we were ready to go, she gave us little food parcels. which would have cost her a lot, but she wanted us to have a present. And she waved us goodbye. She wasn't envying us. And there we were with our fancy clothes, even though we had dressed down. And we were really quiet because this was our last day before we headed back to the UK. And as we sat on the aeroplane heading back to Heathrow, we were completely silent. Not one word came out of our mouths. You know why? Because we were saying, how can someone with so little be so generous and so kind, so giving of herself? And how can this group of friends, the 4 or 5 of us, how can us that had so much be so small-minded and discontented? You see, Kindfest USA, that behavior, showing us who she is, what she's about, not being envious, not asking for money. She asked for nothing, nothing for herself or her children. That kindness, showing us who she is, not wanting anything I had that was material, has never left me. And I tell you something, it started me on my journey to where I am today. What's important? You see, to be kind, it starts from a place of self-acceptance and acceptance of who you are. What Synchronicity demonstrated was the importance of knowing what you're about and who you are, and not envying somebody with a bigger job, with more money, with more status, with more material stuff, but accepting who you are. And that comes from love. And therefore, when you love yourself, when you have that unconditional acceptance of all of who you are, then from that well of self-love, you can be kind, you can be intentional, you can want the best for other people without condition. So what did I learn? I learned that joy doesn't come from what you do or have. It comes from knowing who you are, your purpose in life, and an unconditional acceptance, what's and all of who you are. I learned that generosity is not always about gifts. It's about time. It's about your attitude. I learned that you must at first accept yourself. It is the first indication of kindness. If you can't be kind to yourself, then how can you be genuinely kind to another? I learned that to get the best out of yourself, and indeed out of others at work, your teams, your colleagues, you must be loving and you must be kind. You cannot fake kindness and you cannot fake love. It's the reason why employee engagement initiatives, yes, I'm talking to a lot of HR people here, and all kinds of happiness drives run out of steam at work. The intention behind them needs examining. What's your real intention? So I want to leave you with a poem that I hope speaks to you and encourages you for this fantastic initiative called Kindfest USA. Well done to Becca and to Scott and to Steve and to Juliet, everybody here. So here it goes. The poem is called All of You is Welcome. Are you ready to hear it? It doesn't matter to me what you do for a living. What really matters is that in doing what you do, you are being true to yourself, and kindness is a feature. It doesn't matter to me your why that you do what you do. What really matters is that in some way it fulfills your purpose and your calling in life, and that kindness is at the core. It doesn't matter to me what you have in your pocket. What matters is what you have in your heart, and that whatever you have, you contribute in some way to the physical and the basic well-being of another. because you are oh so kind. It doesn't matter to me where you live or indeed where you sleep. What really matters is what lives in your heart, that these are your dreams, your hopes, your wishes, and your loved ones. I want to know who you really are. I want to know that the child in you who talked to anyone without care, who sang at the loudest, who tried experiences without caution, that truly, deeply beautiful you is willing to be present here today because you are kind and loving of who you are. I want to know if you can dance freely and with abandon, without cautioning you or another to be careful, to be realistic, or to be aware of the limitations of being human. Age, after all, is simply a number. Or have our trials in life erased our ability to enjoy? Can our love for one another rule just this one time and let kindness emerge? The gift we have in life is often not what we have or do. The gift we have in life lies in who we are and who we are being and what we share. In life, our gifts may flow and ebb from apparently hurtful words, yet uttered in love and kindness, in order to set another free. To the soothing silence we are compelled to share, to comfort a friend, a loved one, while sitting side by side. Life may seem like a conveyor belt of travel from cradle to somewhere, wherever that somewhere is or may be. And like any journey, our travel companions are those whom we choose to be. They near, be they far, be they different, or indeed be they more like us. But in this lies something beautiful. The more diverse, the more different, upwards, downwards, sideways, and beyond our travel companions are, the more enriched our own lives and their lives will be. At the end of the day, it is about being true to yourself. It is about being kind to yourself. It is about being loving who you are, unleashing all of who you are, and in so doing, enabling another to do the same. So today at Kindfest USA, let it be that day, that very day, that you give room to all of who you are to emerge, and in so doing, give room to all of who another is to join you in the celebration of contribution, of kindness, of love, and of course, life. Welcome to all of who we are and of all of who we can be.
That was freaking amazing. Doggone you. That's wonderful. Yetunde, thank you so much. That was so inspiring. And everybody gets up. Watch this. This is what you talk about. When you have this, and you bring all of you, you let the light out in between. And you brought the light today, dear. Thank you so much. You were amazing. Everybody give it up. Clap for her. Send hearts in the chat. Yetunde, thank you so much.